Hey everybody, it's Sue at the Marion Library, and I have more new releases for you. Quite a few mysteries. And the first one is of Mutts and Men by Spencer Quinn. And this is part of the Chet and Bernie mystery series. So if you are familiar with the series, you will love the fact that there is a brand new mystery in the series. And Chet is the dog, and Bernie is his PI. And this is about a scientist who meets a violent end, and they have gone to meet him, and of course he's dead when they get there. So the police think it was just a robbery, but of course Bernie and Chet know that there's more to it. So of Mutts and Men, if you like a fun mystery, this is features Chet the dog. Then I have a young adult book called Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bashardost. Hopefully I pronounced that right. This is about a princess. Her name is Soraya, and she is actually poisonous to the touch. So she is pretty much put away all of her life and basically stays in her garden and stays away from anyone because she can literally kill you if you touch her. But her twin brother is getting married, and she has to decide if she's willing to take the chance and leave the garden and go out of the shadows for the first time. Of course, there's a demon in a dungeon underneath the castle, and there is a young man who is not afraid to be around her, and she has to decide what she's going to do and if she's a monster or if she's really just a human being. So Girl, Serpent, Thorn, this is getting a lot of buzz. We have Florence Adler Swims Forever. This is by Rachel Beanland, and this takes place in the early 1930s in Atlantic City. And Esther and Joseph Adler rent their house out to vacationers who want to enjoy Atlantic City during the summer. They move into an apartment above their bakery, and that is where they have raised their two daughters, Fanny and Florence. Of course, Fanny and Florence are now adults, and the apartment is really crowded that summer because Florence is back from college. She's determined to spend the summer training to swim the English Channel. Her sister, Fanny, is pregnant and brings along her little girl, Gussie. And then there's another person, Anna, who is a woman who emigrated from Nazi Germany. Tragedy strikes, and the family decides that they need to keep the tragedy from Fanny, who is pregnant again and is in hospital care because of her pregnancy. She just had previously lost another baby, so she's in the hospital, and they decide they want to make sure that she stays safe and the baby is safe, so they don't tell her what has happened, and I'm not going to tell you because you got to read the book. But this whole book then becomes this giant conspiracy to keep Fanny from finding out about what has happened in the family. So this is all about family and keeping people safe, and it looks like a really interesting read if you want to read something really different. And we have another dog mystery. This is called Muzzled by David Rosenfeld, and this is the Andy Carpenter mystery series. And Andy is a lawyer who has, he actually has a dog rescue organization that he runs. And he has two dogs, Tara and Sebastian, but he has a friend who has brought him a golden retriever that was actually owned by someone who was recently murdered. And the interesting thing about this mystery is that the person who owned the dog who was murdered actually calls them and says, nope, I'm actually still alive and I'm in hiding. Someone's trying to kill me. So of course, Andy gets involved in this mystery and has to solve it. So Muzzled by David Rosenfeld. Then we have the sequel to The Royal We. This is called The Eyre Affair. This is by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. And this is about a woman who marries a prince. His name is Prince Nicholas. And I did not read the first book, but apparently there was a big scandal at the end of the first book, right when they were getting married. And this starts up right away again, right after the first book, where Rebecca and Prince Nicholas are in self-imposed exile, but they have decided to come back to London because there is a crisis and they have to come back and deal with it. And this is all about dealing with all of the things that happened going up to their marriage, and kind of making peace with the royal family. So this is the sequel to the royal we called the Eyre Affair. And then finally we have Susan Wiggs, The Lost and Found Bookshop. I just read this book a couple days ago. I had never read Susan Wiggs before. I'm a fan, so I will probably read more of her stuff now. But The Lost and Found Bookshop is, you guessed it, about a bookshop. And I love books about bookshops and libraries. So it wasn't a hard read for me. This is about a woman, her name's Natalie Harper, and her mother owns the Lost and Found Bookshop in San Francisco. And her grandfather, his name is Grandy, lives with her in the apartment above the bookshop. It's been there for years and years and years, and actually their families owned the building that the bookshop is in for over 100 years. And there's a tragedy that happens, and Natalie is forced to leave her job, which she's not real happy with anyway, but she has to come back to San Francisco and take over the bookshop. And her plan is to just sell the bookshop, but she finds out really quickly that she can't because her grandfather owns the bookstore and owns the building, and he refuses to leave because this is the place where he was born, where he was raised. He's lived there all of his life, and there is a family rumor that there is a treasure somewhere in this building that his grandmother left just before she died in the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. So this is about Natalie kind of reassessing her life, trying to take care of her grandfather, who is suffering from some mysterious illness that no one can figure out what's going on with him. And she's trying to figure out how she can save the bookshop and have a brand new life and deal with her grief and take care of her grandfather. And of course, there's all sorts of characters in it, references to books, beloved books, and a little bit about running a bookshop, which is not as easy as we may think it is. So this is a great summer read, The Lost and Found Bookshop. I would recommend it. And that is all I have for now for fiction.